Hey there, and welcome to the Totally First Crochet channel. My name is Thomas, and this video is going to be a little bit different than my other tutorials, mainly because this tutorial came up pretty spontaneously, as I would say. Um, I literally just started today making those cute heart granny squares, and I don't know, by sitting and like browsing Instagram and threads, I thought like, maybe it would be better to get myself up and make a quick tutorial for those because Valentine's Day is on its way. And what's cuter than those? They are going to serve, in my case, as coasters, but you can basically do whatever you like with them. They're fully reversible. They work from both sides and they look just so pretty. You can make a bag out of it, make as many as you like, make a blanket. Um, the options are endless. So, without any further ado, let's get started. I'll show you how to make the heart granny square in crochet, of course. So, what we need for those, um, the yarn, of course, it's from Hobby, my favorite cotton yarn, um, Hobby Rainbow Cotton. As you can see here, it's 8/8 quality, so it's a bit thicker. They also have the thinner ones, but I think when it's a bit thicker and chunkier, the work gets faster and the final result is bigger. Here it's indicated in the bag that you would need a 3.5 to 4 millimeter crochet hook, and I'm going to use the white again and this red. Funnily, I have like in total 4 different kinds of red and pink and soft red, and I still don't know which one I'm going to use, so I'm going to use all of them. So in total I'm going to have 4 granny square hearts like those, and that's absolutely fine. Then I would have like shades of red. um, but I mean, it's Valentine's Day. It's all about the reds and the pinks and the rose colors. So this is my choice for this tutorial. And this was the yarn. Then, of course, the hook, as I mentioned before, 4 millimeters. It's even rose golden, so it matches perfectly to the Valentine's Day theme. Then, not matching into the color theme, but still important, is the yarn needle. Caution, there's going to be quite a lot of yarn ends to sew in the end, but when I can do it, the king of I hate sewing, then you can do it as well. And last but not least, some scissors. I have my fancy unicorn scissors here, and they're going to help me with those ends. So let's do it. So there's no intro, no outro, it's just pure crochet. And we are going to start with the center. When you're familiar with granny squares, this is a no-brainer for you. Probably the whole tutorial is a no-brainer for you, but since there are so many videos out there and everyone who does them has their own techniques or their own little tricks, which I always enjoy watching myself because then I learn something that I didn't know before. So we are going to start from the center and then in rounds till we reach our size that we want to have. And we are going to start with a magic circle. There's different ways how to do it. I do it like this. I wrap the yarn around my fingers like that. I grab that yarn from behind, pull it over, pull the yarn through, and then pull it through, and then I can tighten it up like this, and I'm basically good to go. Um, there's again so many different ways to do it. If you're not comfortable with the magic ring, you can chain 3 or 4 and then slip stitch into the first stitch to close it as a ring and then work yourself into the ring. It's completely fine. Then we start with the first round, and instead of like the usual chain 3 in the beginning, I actually started doing something different. I made a single crochet into that magic ring like this. So you get into, I will show it again for those who are not familiar with all the stitches. It's completely fine. There's always some beginners watching. So you have the magic ring here. You then put your hook into the ring, you yarn over, you pull it through. You now have 2 loops on your hook, and then you yarn over again and pull it through, which is a single crochet. And now what we do is what I would call a fake double crochet. We are going to go into that loop here in front, just like this. We are going to get the yarn over and pull the yarn through, and then we are going to push it up a little bit. You have like 2 loops now on your hook. We yarn over and pull through, and like this, personally I think it looks more like a regular double crochet, instead of like having this chain. And I think later on in the end it will also look much more pretty in the final result. So this is how I start. Then we do 2 double crochets. So we yarn over, then go into the magic circle, pull the yarn through, yarn over again, pull through 2, and yarn over again, pull through 2, again, yarn over, get into the ring, pull the yarn through, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. And now you have like your first cluster with 3 double crochets. Then we need we need 4 of those in total, so 3 more to go. So to start this, we chain 1 to separate them, and then again we make 3 double crochets into our magic ring. Sorry if you hear any crumbling or moving around. That's Holly trying to get a space to sleep. She was on my lap just a few moments ago and wasn't very happy with me standing up. And she always hates it when I do videos. So this was the second cluster, 3 and 3. Then again, we separate the clusters by a chain 1. Then we do our next cluster with 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. This is the third and the final one before we close round 1. 3 more 3 more double crochets. 2 and 3. So now you have those 4 clusters, 1, 2, 3, 4. And to close the round, we are going to chain 1 again. And then we take the tail from the magic circle and pull it tight to close it. And then here you can see like the first cluster that we did, and the one with the fake double crochet is a bit lower than the others. So to close the round, I'm going to get into that top stitch from the fake double crochet and put the hook in, pull the yarn through, and we make a slip stitch to close it. Right now it looks more like a round, like a circle, um, but that will change once we do the next round. And what we want to do now is to slip stitch our way into that chain one space, and the way we do it is that we go into the next stitch and make a slip knot, and in the next one again, and then we are already there. And then we do exactly the same thing like we started. We make a fake double crochet um, to start with our next clusters. So we put the hook in that hole, in that space, you yarn over, pull the yarn through, you yarn over again and pull through. This is then the single crochet, and then again we go into that front loop here, you yarn over, pull it through, and pull everything up a little bit, yarn over and pull through, and this then serves as our first double crochet, or as I would call it, the fake double crochet. And then we can work our first corner here, and in those corners you always have two segments or two clusters with 3 double crochet each, um, divided by 1, just like in the previous round. So we yarn over, pull through 2, and pull through 2, yarn over, pull through, and pull through. So this is the first cluster. Then we make a chain 1, and then the next cluster, 1, 2, and 3. Here we go. And then we go directly into that next space, into that next corner right here, and we do the exact same thing, 3 double crochets separated by a chain 1, and then 3 more double crochets. So this was our second corner. Now we get a little face here. I always see faces and places, as my friend Christina would call them. So here's a little ghost. And now we have 2 corners. Now we work in the third one. We do exactly the same thing like in the second one. 3 double crochets, chain 1, 3 double crochets. And guess what? We are doing the exact same thing for the fourth corner as well. And you might wonder why I only do a chain 1 in the corners. Later on I'm going to increase that into a chain 2, but I think for the inner rounds I always like them when they're a bit tighter, and then the holes also get a little bit smaller. So this is just a preference. When you're familiar with granny squares and crochet in general, you can always do 2 for the corners, but for me, or for this tutorial, I make it with just one, and I don't do any chains in between, just to keep the holes as small as possible. So chain one, we're in the corner, and 3 more double crochets. So now we reach the end of our second round, and we are going to close it with a slip stitch into that top part of the fake half double crochet from the beginning of round 2, and we are going to put our hook right in there, yarn over, pull it through, and then slip stitch through it. And now you can see it's starting to look like a square, like it should. And to compare, we made quite some progress here, because for the next round we are already going into that peak here, and to do that we are going to again slip stitch our way into that hole, and we do that like this. We take stitch by stitch and make a slip stitch through it until you're here, and then again we start with our fake double crochet. So we make a single crochet first, then go into that front bar, pull the yarn through, pull everything up, and then yarn over and pull through. And then again, since this is a corner, we are going to make 2 more double crochets, and then a chain 1, and then 2 more double crochets, 3 more double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. Then we go in the next space here and make our next cluster of 3 double crochets, and here we are going to stop 1 step before we would finish that, because this is now the moment where we have to change the color for the first time. And even though I'm not a big fan of like cutting the yarn all the time, but for this tutorial I'm going to do that. You can of course keep the yarn and let it follow along your work, but since I want to have this fully reversible, I would rather like sew the ends in. And this is coming from the one who says who hates sewing so much. But that's alright. For this tutorial, and it's hard, it gives me fun and joy and pleasure, so I do that. So we take our white, keep everything like this, and to incorporate the next color, we are just going to put the yarn on the hook and then pull it through those 2 red loops on your hook. You can tighten up everything a little bit. So the way how I do it is I keep the red more in front of me, and this tail from the white yarn, I just leave it, and then I'm going to make my first half double crochet into that next corner space, and I keep the red in front, just like this. Then I pull it through 2, and then I'm actually going to take the white tail back, take the white tail back, put it in front 2, and pull through. So by that I have like both yarn ends incorporated in that next corner segment cluster, and we can easily crochet over them, and later on we can just cut them. So I'm a typical guy in things like this. If you can do it like in a more practical way, I would always do it. So we chain one and then have like one full corner in the white, and again. So this now is then the next time we are going to change back into red, into that space here. This is going to be the lower peak of the heart in the end. And what we do now, just to save some time later, we are going to actually cut those two yarn ends that we just also incorporated, so we don't have to do that later. And then we make the next color change. So I'm really trying to reduce the amount of yarn ends as much as I can, but it's not always working. So we change now back to red. So you take the yarn, pull it through, pull it tight, and then again this yarn end here, we just leave it for now. We yarn over with the red, we leave the white also because that would show in between. You yarn over, pull it through, you yarn over, pull through too, and then we are going to grab the end red yarn here and incorporate it, and then we can work our next cluster with 2 more double crochets in there. So this yarn here is like halfway sewn in, I would say, and instead of closing it, because we have to go back to white now, we are just leaving it like this. We can cut the red yarn for now, get the white, and then we do exactly the same thing that we did here. Pull it through, pull it tight, then leave that yarn piece, and in this case you can even then again take the red one. You can actually use both red ones, pull them in front of your work, then yarn over, and we make the next corner, and we pull it through too, and then we take the white yarn end, push it over in front and pull through too, and then now we have like 3 yarn ends that we are going to crochet in so we can cut them. So it's all practical, and in the end you have not that many yarn ends to sew in, and you don't really see a transition here, because first in some tutorials where they like keep the yarn and follow it along, you have like those strands of yarn from the other color that peek through, and this is something that I absolutely don't like. So I would rather spend a little bit more time in taking the yarn ends to the front or to the back and then try to incorporate them in the work, so later on it gets a bit easier. So we made our next white corner, and you know what's coming up next. We are going to change color again. First off, we are going to cut this white yarn, and then we can already also cut those 3 yarn ends that we pulled through just like this, and then we continue with the red, pull it through, pull it tight. We leave the white because we are going to go into a full red part now. The yarn end with the red, again, we let it go. We start our next cluster with the double crochets, and once it's half done, we pull it in front, yarn over and pull through, so that at least, even though we can't incorporate the white, we can already incorporate the red. 1, 2, and 3. And basically this yarn end we can also already cut. So it's completely up to you. You can cut them in the end when all is done, or you do it like I do it, to cut it also in between. It's fine no matter which way you do it. And then we go into the next corner with our next cluster, 3 double crochets divided by a chain 1, and then 3 more double crochets, 2, and the chain 1, and now we don't close it, so later on we have to go back up here. Oh no, that's true. Sorry, I was I was a bit confused right now. We can cut the red, and we can now continue with the white, because this is going to be our peak, this part here. And we change the color to white. You can put the red yarn in front, you can leave the white tail behind. I'm pretty sure now you know how to do that. And personally I think it makes it so much easier, because you can then like really weave in all those ends, or almost all those ends. And we make the last cluster of this round. Just like this. And then I just continue cutting them off because then I don't have like this, all those yarn ends in my way. Oops. And we can now close this round again in that top stitch of the fake double crochet. And personally I also think that it's, when you do it that way, it's so much easier to get like the stitch where you need to go and slip stitch through it. So this is how it looks now. You might think this is like far off from this, but trust me, once the next round is done, you are going to see how this would look like. And we do this by doing it a little bit different, because I now want to go into that space here, and I do this by making just a single crochet in there again, and then grabbing that, where is it, that front bar, to start again with a fake double crochet, and we leave it just there it's completely fine, because then we can go now into the corners, and from now on, from this round, we are going to separate our clusters by a chain 2, just to give it a bit more space towards the corners. So this is our segment 1, then we chain 2, and then we make the next segment, our next cluster, 3 double crochets, just like this. And then in the next one, we are going all around with the white. This is that. Then in the next one. And now you can also see by like not carrying the yarn, you get like very clean, typical granny square holes that I prefer so much more than having peaks of other colors coming through. So this is our third cluster here, and then we go into the next corner, same thing, 3 double crochets separated by a chain 2, and then 3 more double crochets, 1 and 2. Here we go. This, and then of course in the next. So this is really the easy and relaxing part about granny squares, is that it's very repetitive, and most of the times you do the same thing in the same holes all the time, so you can basically almost close your eyes and continue crocheting like that, and we go into the next corner, 1, 2, 3, then again chain 2, and the next cluster, just like this. Then in the next side piece, and you also see by changing the colors like we did it, you don't have any transitions, because in the next round you are going to cover that part completely like we did it here. So it really looks super clean and neat, and I think especially for geometrical patterns like the granny square, being neat and clean does a lot when it comes to how it looks like, and it doesn't take much to do it. So we're in the last corner, 1 and 2, and again the next set of 3s. Like this, and then 3 more double crochets, And now, since we reached like this part here where we did this sort of like reverse fake double crochet, we already made this, so this is one, so we need two more into that same space. One and two, and then again we are going to slip stitch into that, and it's actually right here. Here's our top, and make a slip stitch through it. And now, just out of the sudden, you got the heart. And if you want to, you can always leave it like this. It's basically complete. What I did here and what I'm going to do for this tutorial as well is to make another round of white and then finish it off with this cute little border in our red color made out of single crochets just all along. So I'm going to continue with another round of white, and we are going to slip stitch our way through it. Or actually we don't have to do that. It's so much fun to make those fake double crochets, so why not do one again, just like this, pulling it through, pulling it up, and here we go, and then we go directly into the corner. And this is now where I'm going to fast forward the video, because now I'm pretty sure you know how to do it. In each corner you make two clusters separated by by chain two, 1 2, maybe I should make one, just like that. And in all the side spaces you make a regular cluster of 3 double crochets, and I see you before I start with the border. So I made it all the way around, and there's just one last thing to do, is to close the round again with a slip knot in that top fake half double crochet. I don't know why I always say that. Too many projects with half double crochet, probably. And this is now how the heart, the granny square, looks. I personally like that the white space around the heart is a bit bigger, with the additional round of white. And we are now making the red border around it, so we can cut the white. We don't need it anymore. And I'm going to easily just pull the yarn through, because we are going to now weave that in or incorporate that in on the go. And we are going to take our red yarn, and I'm going to pick this stitch here. You can pick whatever stitch you like. You pull the red yarn through, and then again leave the yarn end behind you, and then just yarn over. You can use the yarn end to pull it tight, and then we are going just in every stitch leave that red yarn tail in front or over your work, and make single crochets all around. You can always pull it a bit tight, also the stitches, so you really get like a very clean and straight border around it. And this also helps later on to keep the granny square in shape, whatever you're going to do with it. Like that. And just single crochets all around. And before we now reach this part where we connected it, it already got a bit out, but don't worry about it. We are going to cut that red yarn end, so we don't have to care about it later on. And then we continue with our single crochets, and then we go in there. And then in the next one, and here you can just pull a little bit on the white to get it over your work to incorporate it in. And now I'm going to show you the first border, or the first corner. It's 3 single crochets into that corner space. 1, 2, and 3. Just like this. And then I always go directly into that next stitch here and make another single crochet, so you get like a nice round corner. And I just do 3 more or 4 more single crochets before cutting off the white yarn end, and then I'm going to fast forward to finish the corner. But let's just cut that off. And I see you once I made it all the way around. So I reached the end. All that's left is just one final single crochet to seal the deal. And then I'm going to yarn over and then cut the red yarn, and I'm just going to pull it up here. Actually, I'm going to open this again. I'm going to, because then I wouldn't have like this this knot in the end. I'm going to pull it through directly like this, so it's easier to sew the yarn end in. And let's see, there's just 3, and the good part is the one in the middle, the red one, you can already cut. Yay! And then we quickly work those other 2 in, and in this case it's pretty easy because you have like a corner space here with like quite a lot of yarn strands, and then you can just go in there and push the yarn needle through. And since you need a little bit of strength and pressure to pull it through, you can definitely cut it. If you want to be 100% sure, you can of course always weave it in more or sew it in more. That's up to you. For me, this is more than enough. And then here's another corner space, and I'm just going to push that through and cut it. And guess what? There's just one yarn end left, which is up here. And the way I do it is that I look where it is and then I go in there somewhere and then flip it and pull it tight, and then I just go under these single crochets, and since I pushed them tight while I was doing them, it's quite hard to get through, but you know what that means. You just have to pull it through once and then you can cut it. And just like that, all the yarn ends are gone. You can now then also like push it a little bit. I see a lot of people have, like, when you give them something in crochet, they treat it as it's like a treasure. They don't want to touch it, and you can always squeeze it a little bit. You can, of course, if you have a blocking board, you can block it so that you have like a real rectangle, but for me this is absolutely fine, and the other ones work perfectly with it. And this is how you do the super easy classic heart granny square. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you will now make a lot of those heart granny squares. I will probably do quite a few of them, um, maybe as gifts to friends and family, or to keep it for myself, or I'm going to put later on all the different granny squares together and make me a one love um, blanket or something like this in different colors, and because I think they're so pretty. Okay, this was it for the spontaneous tutorial. I hope to see you again next time, only at the Totally First Crochet channel, and until then, have fun, happy Valentine's Day, see you!